It's your girl Natasha Morrison, and you are now listening to Tenacious Goddess. Hey beautiful queens, how are you doing? I hope you guys are keeping safe and doing well. This lockdown is super crazy, and I think a lot of us are just really over it at this point. We just want to go back to normality and be able to travel and see our friends and family. I know that where I am in London, in the UK, we are on complete lockdown, so hopefully things can start to ease up and things can just go back to how it was before. Alright, so in today's episode, I wanted to talk to you guys about how to break generational curse. And for me, this topic is super important because my whole life was kind of orientated around breaking generational curses. I always knew that I didn't want my life to be the same as my mom. And it doesn't mean I don't love her. It doesn't mean she's not my superwoman and my world and my everything. And I admire her so much. But I knew that I wanted more. I always knew that there was more out there for me. From a very, very young age, I always knew that I wanted something different for my life. And today I just wanted to talk about that because I think often we think that where we are in life or where we've come from is the only place that we can be, or that kind of sets the bar of how far you can go. And especially when you come from maybe a lower class or working class family, you don't feel as though you can aim any higher or move up or do things differently. I know that in sociology it does say that more times or less we do follow in our parents' footsteps. So for instance, if your parents went university, there's a higher chance that you will probably go university. If your parents was teenage parents, there's a higher chance that you'll become a teenage parent. And breaking generational curses is all about not following in those footsteps. It's about following a path that is yours and creating that life that you want and becoming the person, the woman that you want to be. So I'm just going to draw upon my own experience to kind of inspire you guys and tell you guys how I went about doing things, because it's the life I know so well. But like I said, from a very young age, I always knew that I wanted things to be different. My mum got pregnant when she was, I think, 19. My dad was her first love. And when my mum found out she was pregnant, it's funny because she actually found out because she had just passed her nursing exams and she was about to become a nurse. But before you could become a nurse, you had to take blood tests. And it wasn't until she went to this blood test appointment and she found out she was pregnant. And my grandma was so angry because they had paid money for my mum's uniform and for her education. And now at 19, she was pregnant. And sad story, but my grandparents wanted my mum to get rid of me. They didn't want my mum to be a teenage mum. They didn't want my mum to have me, but my mum rebelled against it and she kept me. And because of that, my grandparents ostracized my mum. My grandparents didn't speak to my mum. My grandparents pushed my mum out, told her she couldn't live there no more. And even when I was born, my aunts had to beg my grandparents to come and see my mother because they didn't want anything to do with her. So, you know, my mum became pregnant really young. My dad was her first love and they tried to make it work. Long story short, dad left, wasn't really in the picture. Mum had to struggle. And even when we moved to the UK, it was a struggle. And now when I think about it, my mum was so young. I was 6 and my mum was 26. And being the age that I am now, I can't even imagine having a young child right now, trying to figure out who I am, dealing with heartbreak and hurt and pain, yet trying to be a mother to a child and grow that child, you know. In a later podcast, we're going to talk about giving our parents grace, but today is generational curses. So yeah, I saw my mom kind of sacrifice her dreams for me to become a mom. And growing up where I grew up in a rough neighborhood. Yeah, it was kind of rough. I grew up on the blocks and I grew up in a building. I didn't grow up in a house with white picket fence or a gate outside. I grew up in a building, and it was the type of building where the lift was always broken and a whole lot of messy stuff. Everyone hung out outside and no one ever really did anything. And I think as I grew up and I saw my surroundings, I just knew that I didn't want that for my life. I knew that I wanted more for my life. So I made sure, I actually said to myself when I was, I think maybe about 14, I said to myself, I do not want to get pregnant in my teens. I made sure that everything my mum did, not because I didn't love her or anything, but because I always knew that I wanted more. And I think it was when I was in secondary school, I heard that theory where it said, there's a high chance of you following in your parents' footsteps. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, nope, not going to be me at all. So from that moment, I just decided to make a difference. I decided that I didn't want to be a teenage mom, no matter what, I was not going to get pregnant. And I remember when I turned 20, I think I celebrated. I was like, yes, I'm not a teenage mom. I was so happy. The next thing that I really wanted to make sure that I did was go to university, because I know my mom didn't go to university. I know none of my parents did. So for me, that was a big dream of mine, to go uni, to break that cycle, because I knew back then that I want my kids to go uni, even if they're not going because they want to become a doctor or a lawyer, but they go and they experience that experience. But first, I need to set that example. I need to be the role model that I want my kids to follow. So I went to uni, and it was hard. Uni was hard. Getting through heartbreak, or trying to write an essay, making friends and just trying to figure life out. But I got through it and I graduated. And the final thing that I said to myself that I always wanted was a family. I always knew that I wanted my children to grow up in a home. I wanted them to grow up with both parents there, both mother and father, because that was something I never had. I never had both of my parents. I didn't have that support system. I didn't know how a father should love a mother and how a father would love his daughter. So for me, it was really, really important that when I have kids, that they do grow up in that nuclear family household with my husband, and we all have the last name. And I haven't found the husband yet, and I haven't started my family. But throughout my life, my point is that I've always made sure that I've set myself goals and targets. And I think when it comes to generational curses, you have to be very intentional. You have to know where your life is, what has happened in your family's history, and decide that you want something different for yourself, because whatever you want is attainable. Just because your parents didn't go to school or finish university, it doesn't mean you can't. Just because your parents had kids when they were young, it just means you have to be very careful. Be very, very careful, and know that you are not going to make this your life. You do not want to follow down the same path that your parents did. And it doesn't mean that you don't love them or you don't care for them. It just means that you want something different from yourself, something more, something that isn't struggle. I saw my mum struggling. I saw my mum go through trying to make it work and trying to put food on the table and not having enough money. And I always knew that I didn't want that for my kids. Going to school and I didn't even have pocket money. Everyone had pocket money and I didn't have anything. Going to school and having to wear charity clothes because, my family or my mom couldn't afford to buy me new things. So I definitely know the struggle, and I saw the struggle that my mom went through. And when you're young, you don't really understand it. It wasn't until I got a lot older that I did give my mum that grace and look back and reflect and understand what she was going through. It wasn't until I reached the age that she was that I really understood probably what she was going through and the challenges that she faced. So, like I said, when it comes to breaking generational curses, you have to be so intentional, queen. You have to make a plan for your life. And the thing about plans is that they never go to plan. So remember that they won't go to plan. Things don't always happen or work out the way you want them to. But I think when you decide that you want a different future for yourself, and that every single day you are going to make one step into that direction, you're going to work towards that goal, you will achieve, you will break those curses. But like I said, you have to be intentional and you have to be careful. Being careful, being diligent, and making sure that you don't repeat those same mistakes that your parents did. So yeah, I just wanted to come on here today and just talk to you guys about breaking generational curses, because too often a lot of people repeat their parents' mistakes. And I mean, having a child is never a mistake because you love your child, but I definitely do think that there's a right and a wrong time to do certain things in life. And when you're young and you're trying to figure it out and you're going through life, you have to really ask yourself, is this the best time to bring another person into this picture? When you have dreams and goals, maybe you might need to go to university or, educate yourself on something that you don't know so that you can get into the job that you want to get into and break out of the community that you're in and work your way up the ladder and go into a different bracket, go into a different social class. But you have to be intentional. You can't keep just going with the same old things and doing the same things that your parents did and making the same mistakes, because when you think about it, what parents ever say, follow me, do exactly what I did? Your parents always try to push you to be better than them, to achieve more than they did, but you have to just decide to listen and to make sure you're intentional and careful. So that was today's episode, talking about how to break generational curses. If you want some more advice on how to break generational curses, then make sure you hit up my blog, which is www.tenaciousgoddess.com. You can book in a one-on-one session with me or a consultation, and we can talk more about anything really you want to talk about, whether it's generational curses. I am a self-love and femininity coach, so anything you need help with or advice with, it will definitely be there on my blog, and you guys can always reach out to me. Please make sure that you follow Tenacious Goddess on Instagram and Natasha Morrison on YouTube. And until my next episode, I will talk to you guys then. So take care. Bye.